Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Guru Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guru Kripaha, Mokshamulam Guru Kripaha. Namo Ramana. Today's topic is waking to the waking state. So we're having a very simple session based on our daily experience. Let us see what we experience every day. So if you really see what happens in the morning, we wake up. We are waking up for about 16, 14, 16, 18 hours. And then with what they call Jagrat Avastha. And then you get tired of the waking, running around here, there, everywhere, and then you want to go to sleep. But because of the mind being running helter-skelter, you land up in dreaming, in dream state. You start dreaming of things. And that is the Swapna Avastha, or the dream state. And then you have the deep sleep state. Deep sleep is when there is no dreams. Dreamless state is sleep. And that is also called deep sleep, which is the Shushupti, or the sleep state. Deep sleep state. So now, today, what we are going to really understand is what do we mean by waking up to the waking state. So what happens in the waking? Let's try and understand this. We wake up in the morning, and what is our experience? Our experience is, as we wake up, this body seems to wake up. This body seems to wake up, and then what happens? We seem to then, through the five senses, go and see the world of Nama and Rupa in time and space, and the world seems to wake up. Now, one thing we have to understand is what is our experience. When we wake up, we say, I woke up. What does it mean by I woke up? Oh, this body woke up. I was asleep, and this body woke up. But what really happens? Like, say you have a flute, and if the flute is there, can the flute make any sounds? No, it is just an instrument. And that instrument there's a conscious being that has to pick up that instrument and play that instrument. When that conscious being plays that instrument, then what happens? You hear a sound. So similarly, what happens in our body? We have the five jnanendriyas, which are the ears, the skin, the eyes, the tongue, and the nose. And all of them give us some data. But they are also instruments like the flute. So there has to be a consciousness behind these jnanendriyas to be able to experience this. And today, what happens when we wake up? Our experience is that all the body has woken up and the world has woken up. But actually what has happened is the consciousness behind has actually, that the Atma behind has powered all the five senses by which the world has woken up. So we'll come to this again later. So what's our experience in dream? Let's try. We need to understand these three states and try to see what is the experience that we are really looking for. Now, what happens in our dream state? Every night, we make our beds and we make it comfortable, nice and comfortable, nice sheets, and then we go and lie down. So what happens when we go and lie down? The gross body that you see, the gross body quietens. The gross body gets shut down. And then what happens? You start seeing a dream. Now, for example, if you wanted to become a fighter pilot and you became a doctor, then what happens? There will be some subtle memory that will be there, some subtle question that will be there in your subtle body. See, the waking is always for the gross body, but the dream is always for the subtle body. Now, what happens is you wanted to become a fighter pilot, but then you became a doctor. So, in the dream, what happens is you want to fulfill your dreams. They always say, fulfill your dreams. So, what happens is your dream will show you're flying an F-16 and your parents are clapping and saying, well done, Venkatesh, wow, you're flying an F-16. So you feel a sense of accomplishment. Now, what happens similarly is the mind has a feature called the chitta. It's called the memory. So as you experience the whole day in waking, what happens? There is this mind has a recording facility. It will keep on recording whatever happens through the day. And that recording goes on and on and on. Then what happens? When we go to sleep, when we try to go to sleep, then this dream comes. Then what is happening in this dream? This recording is playing out. There's a dream body. There's a dream food. There is everything. There is a dream. And what happens in the dream? Then you finish the dream. The dream is over. Now, for example, if there was a robber in your dream, who was the robber in your dream? The robber in your dream was only your mind. Your mind was projecting in the dream and say, oh, there is a robber. There is something happening. And then suddenly you wake up. When you wake up, what happens? These are all very typical things that happen to all of us. Then what happens? So we have to understand this very clearly. In the waking, we have the gross body. In the dream, we have the subtle body. And the subtle body has all these recordings which are playing out. But when the dream is happening, we believe it is true. So this is a very important thing we have to understand in our sadhana. And we focus on Advaita Vedanta, that when the dream is happening, it is true for each one of us. But then what happens is we wake up to this dream. So what happens when you wake up? Say, imagine you had a bad dream, the robber came, and suddenly you wake up and you're sweating and you think that there's a robber in your house who's trying to rob you and probably may harm you, and you suddenly wake up. Then what is the experience? What's the first reaction that comes in your mind? The first reaction that comes in your mind was, oh, that is just a dream. It is not true. So that's what comes in your mind immediately. That means what really happened? You were able, that whole experience That dream could be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but it would cover a long period of time. In that 1 minute or 2 minutes, it could cover many years and probably even a lifetime could be covered in that dream. But when you woke up to that dream, what did you say? You said it is not true. That's the first thing. That means what? What really happened? The mind was active. The mind was active when the dream was going on. So the mind actually went back into a seed form, went back into the Atman, went back into the self. And then what happened to the dream? The dream just vanished. And you say, oh, it was just a dream. It was a bad dream or good dream, or whatever it was. It's just you had an experience and you said it was just a dream. So, no, the important thing is here. We woke up to the dream. Unless we wake up to the dream, then only we realize the reality of the dream. Whenever the dream is going on, the dream is real. When we wake up to the dream, that means when we come out of the dream state into waking, we say the dream is not real. So we have actually woken up to the dream. So this is a very important aspect that we need to understand. We have to wake up to the dream to understand the nature of the dream. Because when the dream is going on, it is very real. Now let's see what happens in a deep sleep state. In deep sleep, what happens? We go into our bed again. When the dream stops, what happens? You are able to get into the deep sleep. In deep sleep, what happens? Your body is not there. The world is not there. Your problems are not there. Nothing is there. And you want to go into deep sleep every night. Every night you want to go into deep sleep. So where is this or this? So as we said, the waking is in the dream, is in the gross body. The dream is in the subtle body. The deep sleep is in the causal body. It's the cause for everything. So the Atma in the waking is called Vishwa. The Atma in the dreamer is called Tejasa, and the Atma in the sleeper is called Prajna. Now we have a beautiful example of waking up. The topic is waking up to the waking. Now once we woke up from the deep sleep, what did we say? We said we had a good night's sleep. That's our experience. That means when the deep sleep was going on, were we there? Yes or no? Yes, we were there in that deep sleep, because when we woke up, we said we had a good night's sleep. But we had to wake up from the deep sleep to be able to understand our experience in deep sleep. So, if you really look at it, the dream state, when we woke up from the dream state only, we realized what the dream was. And similarly, when we woke up from the deep sleep, we realized what the deep sleep was. Now, this absolutely applies to the waking state also. Unless we wake up to this waking state, that's when we realize what is the waking state. Today, what is it making for us? Sorry. Sorry. So, what is our current experience? Our current experience is that this body is real, my problems are real, and it seems to come over and over again. So, this is a beautiful story of King Janaka. King Janaka was sleeping one night. And many of you must have heard this story, but it's a good pointer to waking up to this waking. So King Janaka was one night he was sleeping and in the palace and he had a dream. And in the dream, the neighboring king came and attacked him. And then what happened was he lost the battle. Because he lost the battle, he was thrown to the neighboring kingdom and told to go out of his kingdom. So in the dream, King Janaka started walking out of his kingdom to the neighboring kingdom, and he was obviously, having walked a long way, felt hungry. So he started begging for food. When he was begging for food, he found somebody who was giving food, so he stood in the queue to have food. Then, when his turn came to pick up the food got over. There was no food left. So, he actually fainted. He fainted, and suddenly when he fainted, he suddenly woke up. When he woke up, a question came into his mind, and this is something that we should all do manana on. Because in Vedanta, we always say, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Manana is very important. So, King Janaka thought that what is true? That dream which I had, where I had lost the battle, I went to beg for food, and I was standing in this queue and begging, and then I fainted, and suddenly I woke up, and now I'm in my palace, sleeping on my bed comfortably. So suddenly he woke up and asked, "Is that true? The dream that I had is true, or is this waking true?" And this is something that none of us ask. So, King Janaka asked his ministers to the answer to this question next day in the Sabha, but nobody gave an answer. And what happened? He put all his ministers into jail because he said, "None of you are actually worthy to be in my Sabha." But then what happened was, Ashtavakra, who was a jnani, was passing by the kingdom. And obviously, Ashtavakra knew he was a jnani, means he knows what was happening. So he actually, somebody told him the king is in a bad shape. He's asking this question, is that true or this true? So Ashtavakra was called into this palace and he came in front of the king. So Ashtavakra told Janaka, first remove all your ministers from the jail and bring them here. So Janaka realized that Ashtavakra probably knows the answer to this question, and he released all the people from the jail and brought them to the Sabha. Then what happened? King Janaka asked him this question. I had this dream and now I'm awake. Is that true or this true? So we are dealing with the situation, the dream state And we are talking about the waking state. We're talking about two states. So Ashtavakra asked Janaka that when the dream was going on, were you there? Janaka said, yes, I was there. Then he says, now when you're in waking state, when you're in your palace, are you there? Yes, I am here. So Ashtavakra told Janaka that I amness, that consciousness which was there, you were there in the dream and you are there now in the waking. So you are the reality. You are the truth. See, because we are all satsangis. We are all trying to understand finally what? The truth. Sat means for truth. Sangis mean all of us together are trying to determine what's the truth. So Janaka realized that he was present in the dream and he was present is present now as that I amness, as that consciousness. He realized that. So coming back to our waking state. Now, what is happening in our waking state? We are constantly bombarded with thoughts. We are constantly looking outside. All the five senses are continuously giving us information. But if you look at this body, this is the body which is jada. It's got all the instruments which is actually powered by the consciousness. And we have the Chaitanya. Chaitanya is the Atma, consciousness, Brahman, whatever you may call it, God. Like in the Ekashloki, Bhagawan gives the whole truth. And it's very important to be able to understand this Ekashloki, because if you understand the Ekashloki, you will understand the truth. Bhagavan says, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Yahamaham Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati Hriday Vishya Manasa Swam Chinvata Majjatava Pavana Chalana Rodhat Atmanishto Bhavatvam. So this is the Ekashloki. If you ever go to Tiruvannamalai and go to Ramanashramam, before you enter Matrabhuteshwara temple, on the right hand side is a stone statue of Bhagawan and a stone platform in which Bhagawan used to sit. On top of that is this Ekashloki that is written. And on the left of that is the death experience, is also elaborated on the wall. So this Ekashloki means Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. In the interior of the heart cave, Brahman alone shines in the form of the self, with direct immediacy as I. Enter into the heart with an inquiring mind, diving deep within, breath controlled, and be firmly poised in the self. So this Ekashloki has got all the truth in it. So Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. In the cave of your heart, Bhagavan is there. The self is there. That means what? Is this body jada and we have the Chaitanya, that Atma is there inside. But in between these two rises this mind. Now, this mind is not apart from the consciousness. One thing we need to understand. The mind is part of the consciousness, and what happens? But it has a tendency of taking you out through the senses. So this is called the ego or the I thought, and this is called the mind. Now, all the sadhana that we currently do, is to quieten this middle fellow, is to quieten this mind, to be able to experience who we really are. Today, if you ask somebody, where do you live? Somebody will say Jayanagar, somebody will say, I'm living in Koramangala, somebody else will say, I'm living in Delhi, somebody somewhere else. But truly, everybody is living in their minds. Because if you examine if you think about this for a minute, is the world in your mind, or are you in the world? This is a question that everybody needs to ask themselves. Because actually the world is within your mind. You are only projecting this world. If I tell all of you to go to Taj Mahal and come back, in a fraction of a second, this mind will take you to Taj Mahal and bring you back here. So the whole world is in your mind. Now this mind is between this Jada body and the Chaitanya. The body does not say I. You must understand this very clearly. The body never says I. Otherwise, when it is being taken to the Shamshan Ghat, it should say, no, don't put me in the chamber. Don't put me in the chamber. The body is Jada. It has got no intelligence. The Chaitanya, the Atma, is a Sakshi. It's like the sky. The clouds are coming and clouds are going. Sky does not ask the clouds, oh, you put the rain today in Bangalore, tomorrow put it in Mysore, day after tomorrow put it in Hubli. No, it does not say that. It is just a silent witness to this whole game, to the whole phenomena that's happening. So there is this Sakshava, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. There is this Chaitanya does not say I. In the middle of this is this I thought, this ego which rises. And when this ego rises, what happens? It has a tendency of going out through the body. And then what happens? We say, Brahman Satyam Jagat Mitya. We say, Brahman is Satyam. God is there. Like somebody told me the other day, it's like some people say we are human beings trying to become divine beings. Some people say we have an animal instinct and then we have a human instinct and there is a divine instinct. But this gentleman told me we are human beings trying to become divine beings. But actually we are divine beings trying to behave like human beings. We are divine beings because if Bhagawan says Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram, in the cave of your heart, that Lord, that God or that Atma or the consciousness which runs the whole universe is actually in your spiritual heart. Bhagavan says to the right of your chest is the spiritual heart, on the left is your physical heart. Why he says, when you say, you know who am I, you always tap on the right hand side of your chest. It says, you know who am I? So the spiritual heart is there, and all Bhagavan says, all the nadis come and merge, come and join together in the spiritual heart. So, why are we not able to experience something who we already are? If we are the self, then why are we not able to experience it? Because of this mind, because of this ego, because of this mindness, because of this I-ness. This fellow in the middle has a veiling power. It covers the reality. It covers the Chaitanya. It covers who you really are. And because of this, what happens? You do not really know who you are. So the whole sadhana that we go through of karma, bhakti, jnana, raj yoga, all this happens in the waking state. For what? To do antarkara shuddhi, to come to single pointedness. Antarkara shuddhi means it is purifying yourself. When we all sit in satsang, like we are doing right now, what are we doing? We are trying to find out the truth, who we really are. Because the purpose of human life, like all the great ones have said, the purpose of human life is to know who you are. There's absolutely, from a spiritual perspective, there is no other purpose of this human life. So if that is the purpose of human life, then this mind, what happened? It rises. And then when it rises, it says, this world which we are saying mithya is actually true. It's not untrue, it is true. So it does not allow you to really go inwards. What's the nature of mind? It's like a dog. You know, when you have a dog at home and you want a dog trainer, the dog trainer will ask, what is the breed of your dog? And you'll say Alsatian, or you'll say Golden Retriever. Now, the dog trainer understands the mind of the retriever, he understands the mind of the Alsatian, and does not train both the dogs in the same way. Similarly, what's the nature? If you know the nature of your mind, then you will know how to deal with it. The nature of the mind is to go out. Make you bahirmukha, going outwards. And then what? It jumps from one object to another object, to another object, to another object. That is the nature of the mind. Now, if that's the nature of the mind, one day what happened was, I give an example, one gentleman came to meet Bhagawan. He came from North India, spending a lot of money, time and energy, and came to meet Bhagawan. And Bhagawan started climbing the Arunachala hill. And this gentleman wanted to have personal time with Bhagawan, and he started following Bhagawan up the hill. Then Bhagawan turned around and said, go back to where you have come from. Go back from where you have come from. He told this man was absolutely dejected. He had spent so much of time. He wanted a private time with Bhagawan, and he had lots of questions, and he came down the hill, and he was feeling so sad that other inmates of the ashram asked him, what happened? He says, I went to Bhagawan, I've spent so much of money and time, to understand the truth, and Bhagawan has told me to go back from where I came. Then those inmates says, you know what Bhagawan says? He's given you the highest Upadesha. He says that you have left the Atma and come out into the world of Nama and Rupa and time and space and trying to find a solution for your problem. When you go back and you realize you're already that, then the puzzle is solved. So the inmates told him that instead of being Bahirmukha, become Antarmukha. That means if you are continuously looking out and expect happiness, expect contentment in this world, it's not going to happen. Why? Because your nature is happiness. If your nature is happiness, then if you are looking for happiness in the world, you will never find it because you're looking for happiness in the wrong place. So this is a very important aspect of this middle layer, this mind. And what is this mind made up of? This mind is made up of thoughts. Continuously the thoughts coming. Continuously. They're so fast, sometimes you think, oh, my head is turning. There's so many thoughts coming. But the beauty of thoughts is that there can be only one thought at a time. But they come so fast, you think that, oh, my head is reeling because of so many thoughts. Now, in this waking state, is there a way? Is there a way to come out of this? If Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya, if like Bhagawan said, you go inwards, is there something? Is there a solution to this waking state? Now what happened? When we woke up from the dream, we said it was just a dream. When we woke up from the deep sleep, we said it was deep sleep. Now how do we wake up to this waking? Now what's happening? This middle layer, this mind, Bhagavan says, is only going outwards. So we understood the nature of the mind. Now, if you know the main nature of the mind, half the problem is solved. Because you know you have to move 180 degrees inwards. If you are going to go out and expect any solution, it's not going to happen. So Bhagavan says, whenever a thought comes, see this thing about this mind, even in dream, what happens? Some people sometimes have dreams of the recent past. Sometimes the dreams are horrific. Sometimes the dreams are so bad that you wonder, how are you having these dreams? But there is an accumulation of vasanas and desires that have come through so many lives. So that's why you could, in this whole process of cleansing, because as we realize, unless this middle layer, which is causing a veiling of the Chaitanya, unless this middle fellow is cleaned up, then only you will experience who you really are. So how do you do this? So this is a journey. Now, is there something beyond these three states? See, one thing we see, our daily experiences, many of us have gone to a movie theater. Now, what is our experience in the movie theater? We see a picture. We see actors, actresses. We see drama. We see a villain. We see songs. We see love. We see all that happening on the screen. But do you see the screen? You have to have something that is not moving to be able to see the movie. Now, in COVID times, there was no movie playing on the screen. So if there's fire in the movie, does it burn up the screen? No, it does not. So we have to understand this very clearly, that even within us, if things are moving, if this world is moving, if you look to the right, there are different pictures. You look to the left, there's different pictures. So Bhagavan says, this waking seems like that dream state. In dream, what was happening, when it was happening, it felt real. It was also made of the same stuff. But in the waking, the Jnanendriyas were active. Means your smell, your taste, all those active. But in the dream, it was a playback. It was a movie that was recorded and it was playing back. But that experience that Bhagavan says you are having in dream and the experience you are having in waking seems very similar. So Bhagavan says you have to wake up to this waking. Unless you wake up to this waking, then only you realize the truth of the waking. Because when you are in Ganga, deep in Ganga, you do not know how pure Ganga is. Because you're part of Ganga. It's like a jnani who is the infinite. If he is everything, then it's like a devotee came and asked Bhagavan, Bhagavan, when will I get mukti? When will I get moksha, liberation? Bhagavan says, if I am not a jnani, if I am an ajnani, then I can't tell you when you will get jnana. But if I am a jnani, everything is only me. There is nothing apart from me. So, importantly, what Bhagavan is trying to say is there is something beyond this waking. So, how do you wake up to this waking? Like in dream, what happened was the mind went and merged into the self. If you're able, each thought, if you're able to take the thought and take it to the source, take it to the Atma, then what will happen? One, what will happen is Antarkarana Shuddhi will happen. The cleansing will happen inside. And number two, this fellow who is in between the Jada body and Chaitanya will slowly vanish. So how do you do that? Bhagavan says that you can do with self-inquiry. So every time a thought rises, it wants you to take you out through the five senses into the world. And one thought creates hundreds of thoughts and you get caught. Kriti mahodadhav patana karanam. Bhagavan says in Upadesha Saram, Kriti mahodadhav patana karanam. You will go into doing one thought after another thought. You will just keep on getting into one thought like an ocean. And that will let you down. So, Bhagavan says, every time a thought rises, do not follow the thought. If you don't follow the thought, then what happens? You inquire, for whom is this thought? This is what Bhagavan says, Atma Vichara. For whom is this thought? For me. My thought is mine. For who am I? When you ask who am I, what happens? The thought which was supposed to go out into the world goes back to its source. Now, the beauty of the thought in the mind is that the source of the breath and the source of the mind is the same. So every time a thought rises, if you inquire for whom is this thought, that same, like the dream experience, it goes back into the self. That whole dream experience goes into the self. The same experience will happen here when you actually do self-inquiry. That thought you will take back into the self, to the Atman. Then what happens? A sense of purification. That means it's like in the US, you have these dog collars. These dog collars are, in the US, they don't have walls around their houses. So they have these dog collars and they have electric fences around the house. So whenever the dog tries to go towards the fence, towards the wall of the house, what happens? It gets a shock. So because it sees another dog, it wants to chase that dog. But whenever it goes towards the fence, it gets a shock. Now, after some time, the dog gets used to the situation that whenever I run towards the wall, I'm going to get a shock. So what it does, even if you remove the collar, even if you remove the electric fence, the dog will not run towards the fence because it knows that it will get a shock. So the same thing is in the mind. The mind, every time it rises, if one inquires, for whom is this thought? For me, who am I? Then after some time, this mind will get tired. It says, every time I rise, I am going to be put down. So the mind stops going out. When the mind stops going out, then what happens in waking state? They call it the fourth state, or call it Turiya. So what really happens in Turiya is, it's just called the Turiya, means the fourth state. But there's nothing like the fourth state. So what happens is you start recognizing the presence of this consciousness. So by this middle layer of mind and ego, I-ness and minus, which is very strong, this middle layer starts becoming weaker and weaker and weaker. What happens with that is this mind goes and finally merges into the self. Because the mind is actually part of this consciousness, it's not apart from it, but because of our vasanas and desires, it has a tendency to go outwards. So then what happens? Coming back to that Ekashloki, Yaham ahamiti sakshat atma rupena bhati. Now, as you keep doing self-inquiry, what happens is a sense of purification happens. And as this purification grows and grows and you become extremely pure, then what happens is you will experience this Turiya state, or Bhagavan calls it I. It's like Moses prayed to God that everybody should be happy in this world. And then, it's a long story, but I'll make it very short. Finally, what happened? God comes and says that the nature of God is that I am. That's why in Christianity they say, I am that I am. So what's the nature of God? That I am. So each one of us, right now, if you're asked, do you exist? Are you conscious of your existence? Yes, I exist. I am. Now, what happens is that I amness is the consciousness, is the knower. But I add I am Venkatesh. Once I add Venkatesh, a prefix or a suffix to I amness, I am limiting it. So what's the nature of God? What's the nature of consciousness? It's omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Means it's all over. It's everywhere. So this, as we keep on doing Antarkana Shuddhi, as we do start doing more and more cleansing inwards, we start experiencing this I, which is the Turiya state, which people call the knower, or the I amness, or the consciousness. Now this consciousness is like that movie screen. That movies play, there may be a love movie playing, there may be a hate movie playing, there are all sorts of movies that are playing. So on this consciousness is waking that's playing, on this consciousness is dream that is playing, on this consciousness is the deep sleep that's playing. So this consciousness is the Sakshi. So normally what you say in the morning is, I woke up. But what are we talking about? Woke up means what? The body woke up, that's all. But where is the true awakening? Is where all of us should try and be. Because if you are in the physical state, then you are bound by birth and death. You will have some karmas, add some more agami karma and sanchita karma and prarabdha karma, and the cycle will go on. Again you will do ABCD, again you will do PUC exams, you do all the same things again. But as we keep on doing self-inquiry and you experience that that Turiya state, the fourth state, that stillness, you will feel stillness here and now. So what is the nature of God? See, people ask, what is nature of God? Jesus beautifully puts it. Consciousness, devoid of thoughts, purged of thoughts, is felt as God. So consciousness is what? That I amness, which we experience every moment. That stillness we experience between two thoughts. That stillness that we experience between two breaths. That is the stillness. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, for a fraction of a second, there will be that stillness. Start being in that stillness. That stillness is God. Or whatever you may call it. You may call it Atma, you may call it consciousness, you may call it anything that you may want to call it. Bhagawan, whatever you may want to call it. That stillness is the Sakshi. It's the witnessing consciousness. It's like the sky. It's like the gold in all the ornaments. So if the consciousness is not there, if the consciousness is not there in this body, this body is a dead body. So, like Bhagawan, when he saw his father's dead body in front of him, he thought for a minute or two, my father has died. But what was true in my father's body? I see this body die in front of me. I always considered this body to be my father, but it looks like this body is not moving. So what is real in this excuse me, what is real in this body? The reality is the Atma, is the consciousness. Now, in the waking, right now, like for example, if I am talking, who is talking? If you are listening, who is listening? Swami Shivananda beautifully says, find the knower, find the seer, find the taster, find the smeller. Very important. Otherwise, you will think this body which is Annamaya Kosha, this only full of, food, is you. Unless we inquire, and this middle layer of the mind and ego, unless it gets quietened and you understand who you are, that's what the Eka Shloki says. Hridaya Kohara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram. The interior of the heart cave, Brahman alone shines in the form of the self with direct immediacy as I. Here and now, by doing self-inquiry, you will experience that Turiya state, you will experience that I. And that's the power of God. So as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into this, what happens? You will start that, you will drop that, finally you will drop that I also, but you will be in absolute stillness. Your mind will not move. Today what it is? Today what happens is, there's thought, little bit silence, thought, little silence, thought. That's the way it is. As you keep doing self-inquiry, what happens? There will be silence, thought, silence, thought, silence. That's what it will be. You will be, they say, abiding in the self. You will know who you are. That's the Turiya state. That's the fourth state. That's when you awaken to this waking. Then you'll realize the reality of this world. To know the self is to be the self. Unless you go inwards and inquire and try to find out who you are, and unless you realize who you are, you won't know reality of the self. How many ever books you want to read, you can read, you will not realize who you are. It's like if I ask any of you to explain silence to me, it's virtually impossible. Or this sweetness and sugar. You have to put the sugar in your mouth to experience it, to realize who you really are, or to realize how sweet that sugar is. So, to know the self is to be the self. So, as you keep going down, deeper and deeper, so, Hridaya Kohara Madhye Kevalam Yahamamiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. Hridaya Vishya Manasa Swam Chinvata Majjata Va Pavana Chalana Rodhat Atmanishto Bhavatmam. Holding the breath, diving deep in, and the beauty about this whole mechanism is that we have this thing called breath, and with holding the breath, you can go deeper and deeper within who you really are. So as you go deeper and deeper, what happens? This middle layer, this impurities, this covering vanishes. And then you have direct experience of the self, of who you really are. Once you have a taste of the self, then you don't want to leave it. Why? You become fearless and free. You are no more bound. You know your reality and you know the reality of the world. Bhagavan says that if you want to know reality of the world, you can't go and say, neti, 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 neti. Oh, yes, yes, this is not true, this is true, this is not true. You can't do that. So Bhagavan says very clearly, find out who you really are. Wake up to this waking. As you do self-inquiry, you will absolutely go into stillness. Now people used to ask, what is Bhagavan doing? He is sitting quietly. Well, like Bhagavan used to tell his mother, Summa iru. Keep quiet, just be. What do you mean by just be? Like if you go to Shiva Rishikesh and Swami Shivananda of ashram and see what's written on his samadhi, is written, be good, do good. First, be good. He didn't say do good and then be good. No. First, be good. Your being is more important than your doing. The whole world today is talking about doing. What am I doing? What are you doing? You meet your friend and say, what are you doing? What did you do today? Nobody asks you. You can't go and ask your friend, hey, what are you being? But your being is more important. Bhagavan does not care what you do. He sees what is the intentions behind what you do. That is the being. So, in this whole cycle, when you actually do self-inquiry and you experience this seer who is there, you start experiencing who you really are. And when you start experiencing who you are, then what happens? You become awakened. It's not that I woke up. I woke up in the morning at 4 o'clock. Okay, you woke up, fine. But when are you going to awaken yourself? When are you going to realize who you really are? So, but Bhagavan has given this breath as a beautiful instrument to go dive deep within. It's like Bhagavan says that whenever a thought comes, you know who, you ask, who am I? That is Jnana Yoga. And Ganapati Muni, Kavya Kantha Ganapati Muni came to Bhagavan. And Kavya Kantha Ganapati Muni said, Lord Bhagavan, I have done crores of japa, I have done everything that is possible in sadhana, but I have not had the experience of who am I. Bhagavan says, go deep, dive deep within to the source of the I thought. From where does the I thought rise? From wherever the I thought rises, go and merge in there. And that's what he called as whence am I. From where the I thought rises, go and merge into that. So here was self-inquiry from a jnana perspective, and from a bhakti perspective, he gave a perspective of diving deep within and going and merging from where the I thought rises. So Ganapati Muni did that. And each one of us has different temperaments. So if Jnana Yoga doesn't suit you, here is this Bhakti Yoga of who am I? From who am I or whence am I? And then you also have the surrender. Beautiful surrender. Where you are no more the doer. actually each one of us does not do anything. Now this body is talking and you think Venkatesh is talking. This, this tongue, which is a little piece of flesh, is moving up and down. These vocal cords are moving up and down and creating some sounds. Actually is happening because of the self. It's because of the Brahman. And each one of you who are in the call are able to listen. That's what people say. Whenever you're in satsang, ask who is the listener. Find out who is the listener. You will think, oh, this I've heard a lot too many times. But find out who the listener is. When you go to the listener, you are actually going into who you really are. That's very important. So self-inquiry is so very important. So as you go deeper and deeper into who you are, you will experience this stillness. And what's the state of a jnani? A jnani, a jivan mukta. What is the state of a jnani? He is still within. His mind does not move. Why? Because he is with God. And once he is aware that what he is, he realizes whatever is inside is also outside. Because I'm only projecting this world of Nama and Rupa. The whole world that I'm seeing is my vasanas, everything that's projecting outward. So if I am still within, the world will be still. So that's what Bhagawan talks about, a state called Jagrat Shushupti. You will be awake, but you'll be asleep. Consciously you'll be awake, but inside you'll be absolutely still. Your mind will not move. So a jnani is like that. He is still from within and absolutely conscious about whatever is happening around him. So this is what we call the fourth state, or waking up to this waking. And the quicker we do this in our lives, what happens? The quicker we will understand who we really are. And then what happens? We live a life of freedom. So they talk about, I'll read something here, as absorption in Turiya increases, it deepens the experience of peace, fulfillment, and ecstasy. You will experience sameness. That means today what happens? There are 25 of us sitting in the satsang. They seem like different beads on a necklace. But you'll stop seeing the beads. You'll stop seeing the separateness. You will see the thread that goes through these beads. So he says, towards all beings, same lamp of consciousness in all. No friend or foe, no mine, no yours, only ocean of bliss and peace. So that's what happens when you are in the fourth state, the Turiya state. That's when you wake up to this waking. And as you wake up to this waking, we'll realize who we really are. Once we realize who we are fearless and free. So let's do self-inquiry now for 10 minutes. Let's all close our eyes. Whenever a thought comes, ask, for whom is this thought? For me, who am I? For whom is this thought? For me, who am I? How many ever thought comes, it does not matter. It does not matter how many thoughts come. Another thought will come. Ask, for whom is this thought? for me. Who am I? Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana Maharshi. Namo Ramana everyone.